Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2020 and the final part of this experiment where we're taking a look at what would happen if you had the perfect goalkeeper in the game. Now, we've already had two parts. We've gone quite far into the future with him. He's 33 years old at the moment, currently at Barcelona, but due to leave at the end of this season. So it'll be interesting to see where he does go next. I think PSG, currently the favourites to sign him, but he's had a great old time of it at Barcelona, and we're just looking to see if he can win a major competition with Germany before he retires as well. I will try and move him on from PSG, so there should be two more clubs for him to play at before we reach the end of this experiment. But do drop a like down below if you've enjoyed this one, and make sure to subscribe. There will be a new experiment out tomorrow. A little spoiler, we're going to put Premier League teams in non-league, so it will be interesting to see how that works out. But let's go forward to the end of Jenkaldo's career and see how he's done. Well, we're nearly at the end of his career. We haven't gone all the way to the end of his time because, unfortunately, we do lose his personal stats when he does retire. He doesn't go on to become a manager, so you can't keep track of those things other than keeping his biography. But as you can see, he did end up at PSG. A lot of clean sheets coming in very early on in his time, and he wins his first trophy pretty quickly in the Trophy de Champion as well. 1-0 victory with a man sent off in the second minute. I don't know what it is with this keeper, but he seems to encourage his team to get sent off very early on. But you can see just how well they have done in the league, and it's worth noting that they did lose the league title the year before this, finishing up in second place, so they did need to sign Jenkaldo. But they managed to go unbeaten in their Champions League group stage, a second defeat coming to Paris in the local derby, which is a little bit unfortunate. But going through in the Coupe de France through the 11th round into the quarter-final where they beat Dijon. Then in the knockout stage of the Champions League, they managed to beat Zenit St. Petersburg 4-2, 3-1 win over Nantes, gets them into the final. And they also overcome a 1-0 defeat in the Champions League quarter-final. And they do win the Coupe de France against Lyon. Again, another man sent off, but he scores in the penalty shootout and saves two. And they go through in the Champions League semi-final with a nice victory over Real Madrid over the two legs. And then at the end of the season, they do win 2-0 in the Champions League final to add to their Ligue 1 title, the Trophy de Champion and the Coupe de France. It's a perfect clean sweep for them in his first season at the club. The second season, this is a good old record here. They win the Trophy de Champion 2-0. Another man sent off, and then 1-0 in the UEFA Super Cup. Extra time goal, seeing the win there. They do lose in the league, though, despite this almost perfect record. Another defeat in the league, but going through in the Coupe de France. Juventus in the knockout stages, but they do manage to go through 2-1 at home after the 1-1 draw. They're also into the final of the Coupe de France again. Champions League, 3-1 win in the first leg against Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, but 4-1 defeat in the second. They do win the Coupe de France and the league title, though, but unfortunately they couldn't win every competition. The following season, another Trophy de Champion, defeat in the league, so there'll be no unbeaten season for him. But he is doing well in the cup competitions here, going through the Coupe de France final. But they actually go out on away goals in the first knockout round of the Champions League, so that's a little bit disappointing. Another Coupe de France for him, 3 in a row. And then into the FIFA Club World Cup where they lose in the quarter-finals. So that is not ideal. And that is also the end of his time at PSG. I ended his contract at the end of... No, I didn't terminate the contract. But I said that there couldn't be an extension. He was going to leave the club at the end of his contract. And it's quite an interesting team that he goes to next. Bearing in mind, he's still the best player in the game at this point. He ends up at Bournemouth, which is a little bit of an odd one. You can see he's a key player. He is their captain as well, which didn't take long. And if we have a look at the senior squad schedule, it's just such an odd place for him to end up. But you can see the league campaign not doing that well. We're just hoping he can win some sort of silverware here. They go out of the EFL Cup quarter-final, out of the FA Cup, and they don't do particularly well in the league either. The next year, Euro Cup 2, they have qualified for Europe, and they do manage to make it out their group, but then go out on away goals to Saint-Etienne, so that's not very good either. Out of the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup as well, so he hasn't had that big an impact on the team. They are rich in finances. He is getting paid nearly 200 grand a week, only worth £6 million at this point, But this is the last point where I can show you this screen here. It disappears in my next save file, which goes one more year into the future. And you can see clean sheets, doing reasonably well, 13 in the league, but not as high as when he was at Barcelona and PSG. Barcelona, the real high point for him was this season here, 25 clean sheets and only 15 goals conceded in 36 games. He only conceded 13 the year before, but 2 less matches played. Much better than his time at Kaiserslaurten. But let's jump forward to that final bit, and then we can have a look at his biography and how he did with the German national team. Well, here is his screen. Now that he has retired as a player, there's no plan for him to become a manager. If we just have a look at their final season with him as a player, you can see he wasn't playing in that game for some reason. I don't know why he wasn't playing in that match. But their campaign getting off reasonably well. They're into the EFL Cup quarterfinals, but go out on penalties to Manchester United. Through in the FA Cup. Yeah, they are through in the FA Cup. Oh, then they lose to Leeds 1-0. Their league campaign actually not doing too badly. And if we have a look at the Premier League, you can see they finish in 7th, qualifying for the Euro Cup 2, but not enough to really get any major trophies in his time at Bournemouth. So if we have a look at the German team now, you can see, looking at their senior squad schedule, going back a few old years, this is where we left off before. They did manage to get through their group quite comfortably. They beat Brazil 1-0. They beat Belgium on penalties, but then lost to Spain on penalties. He actually missed their 4th penalty, so not an ideal outcome for him. It's World Cup heartbreak yet again. The next year, 1-0 win in the semis, and then going out on penalties to Italy in the final. Germany's penalty record with Jenkaldo not actually been that great. But then you have the European Championships, where they do, it's hosted in England, quite funny enough, but a 2-1 win over Holland, 3-1 over Ireland, 3-0 over Wales, 2-1 over Turkey, then 4-2 against Croatia, 1-0 against Belgium, and in the final they do manage to win a major trophy. The interesting thing is he still playing for his country at this point, or do they finally win a major competition when he's no longer there? There's not a penalty shootout for us to have a quick look at. The following year though, in the World Cup qualifiers, no surprise there. And then in the World Cup, 6-0, 7-0, 3-0, a very comfortable group stage with 16 goals scored. They do win on penalties, but you can see he hasn't scored for them in this penalty shootout. So his retirement may well have heralded the greatest period of German success here, with a win in the European Championships, followed up with a World Cup win against Norway in the final. In fact, they didn't play a single major team here. You could argue that Uruguay are, but 7-0 thrashing argues against that point. But they have managed to win the World Cup as a country. They are on a fantastic winning streak as well, or were in that year. But if we have a look at Jenkaldo Jr.'s actual record, you can see, does he manage to win anything with Germany? Let's have a look. Super good. FIFA Club World Cup, Nations League twice. I don't think he was there for the European Championship. I'm trying to just see if there's anything in here that says Germany. Not that I can see. Oh no, they did. He was there. He did win the European Championship with Germany. That's what we want to see. He didn't win the World Cup, unfortunately, the following year. Club World Cup, misleadingly named in here. You've got the 2 Nations Leagues, but he has won the European Championship with Germany. That's what we wanted. We wanted to see him win a major competition with his country, and he has managed to do it in 2036, presumably the year that he retired. So looking at his overall biography, 21-year career, 705 games, working his way up from the 3rd division of German football with Kaiserslaurten to the top tier. But not an awful lot of success there. They did win the 3rd division title and the German Cup, his highlight of his time at Kaiserslautern, 10 years there I think it was. But then his £52 million transfer to Barcelona, where he did manage to win the Supercopa de España 4 different times, the Copa del Rey 5 times, the UEFA Super Cup twice, the Champions League 3 times with Barcelona, and the Club World Cup once, and then 2 Nations League titles with Germany in his time at Barcelona. So a very successful 5-year period of his career then. With PSG, He did manage to win the Coupe de France 3 times, the UEFA Super Cup once, the Champions League, his 4th one as a player, 4 Champions Leagues in total, 3 Trophée de Champion, and the league title 3 times as well. So he's won plenty of league titles at this point. 47 competition wins. We don't need to go through those. We've just heard them. But here are the personal awards. FIFA Best Men's Goalkeeper 13 times. Missed out on it the last 2 years when he was at Bournemouth. Didn't even make the top 3, but he won it. Oh, he did win it with Bournemouth in one of his years, which is surprising. You wouldn't really expect that. There's actually another player who did even better than him with less goals conceded in more matches and a higher average rating. I think he was probably robbed, but he did go on to win it the next 2 years. And Jenkaldo in his final year did finish 3rd, so he retired with a 3rd place finish in the best goalkeepers standing. But he did win it with Barcelona, PSG, and then with Bournemouth as well. Spanish League Player of the Year. The Spanish First Division Goalkeeper of the Year 4 times, Champions League Best Goalkeeper 7 times, FIFA Best Men's Player 3rd place. It's so unfortunate they never win the Ballon d'Or goalkeepers. And then a few personal things, including the Premier League Golden Glove twice with Bournemouth, which is quite impressive in and of itself. But 36 cup wins, 5 second places, 3 bronze positions or 3rd place finishes. Personal 27 personal awards. It's quite the trophy cabinet that he's built up. The main thing is that he did manage to do it with Germany and win the European Championship. So he did manage to win a major international competition alongside 2 Nations League titles, but I don't put them in the same place as a European Championship or a World Cup. But that is going to be it for this experiment. Do drop a like down below if you've enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe for the League Switch experiment coming out tomorrow. But until next time, see ya.